Today we're going to solve fractional equation. A fractional equation is an equation that contains fractions with variables in the denominator. To solve, simply multiply the entire equation by the lowest common denominator and check. Again, I have check in big bold letters because you have to check to make sure the answers work. Because in fractions, as you know, you cannot have 0 in the denominator. So if one of your answers gives you a 0 in the denominator, it's undefined and you have to reject that answer. Okay? I'm going to start out with a very simple one first, and you've done something like this before, but this one is not exactly this model, but it can be done both ways. So it looks kind of weird because I've already done it, but I have x plus 4 divided by 18 equals x minus 1 divided by 8. So the loops that I just did was because I have two fractions with an equal sign, I can cross multiply. Or you can multiply each side by the common denominator, which ends up being this way. So I have 8 times x plus 4 equals 18 times x minus 1. And then all I did was distribute, so I have 8x plus 32 equals 18x minus 18. And then I moved things around. So I moved the 18 over here and the 8x over here. So I end up with 50 equals 10x and divide by 10. So I have x is 5. Now, I see the 5. I have it here. If I look at it, the 5 is going to go in the numerator. It doesn't even go in the denominator. So it's probably going to work. So if I put a 5 in there, I have 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 over 18 is a half. If I put a 5 there, I have 4 over 8 is a half. A half equals a half. So I have the little check mark with the thing because it works. Okay? So that is the basic one. I know you've done a lot of those, but that is a fractional equation because you have fractions with an equal sign, but you just have one term on each side. Now let's try some with more than one term. And so I'm going to do this with you, and if you follow these steps, because the whole idea is you want to get rid of your fractions and make this a nice equation to solve or something easier to look at. So if I look at this, I see this denominator has an x plus 2, this denominator has an x minus 2, and this denominator is a 1. So I have 10 over x plus 2 plus 2 over x minus 2 equals 4. Now I'm going to do this when I first start. And I said, okay, what is my common denominator of all three? Because if I get the lowest common denominator of all three, I'll get rid of all the fractions. And my common denominator would be x plus 2 and x minus 2. I have to multiply those two together because there's no factors of each. So I usually write it like this because this is the fun part. So you write x plus 2, x minus 2 for this term. X plus 2 times x minus 2. X plus 2 times x minus 2. All right, so write it. You're going to multiply each term by your common denominator. Now here comes the fun part. You can cancel. So when I go to do this, I said, all right, this is in the numerator, this is in the denominator. My x plus 2's cancel. So I end up with 10 times x minus 2. Fraction's gone. That's what we wanted to have happen. Plus, here, my x minus 2's are going to cancel. So I have 2 times x plus 2. Now for the 4, there's a 1 down here. Nothing cancels, so it's going to equal 4 times x plus 2, x minus 2. All right? Now this side we can start simplifying if we can. So I got 10x minus 20 plus 2x plus 4 equals 4 times, and I know this is front seat, back seat, so that's going to be x squared minus 4. Remember, the middle goes away. And it looks like I'm going to have a squared here, so I'm going to combine here. So I have a 12x minus 16 equals 4x squared minus 16. Okay? Now, I need to get everything on one side because it's a quadratic. So if I move everything over here, when I'm going to subtract the 12x, but I'm going to add 16. Do you see how the 16s will cancel? So I end up with 4x squared minus 12x. And the 16's cancel, so it just equals 0. Okay? Now I have a quadratic. Don't forget your eyeball. What can I factor out of these two? Well, I can take a 4x out of those. So now I have x minus 3. All right, I'm like running out of room here a little bit. Make your big T. So now on this side, I have 4x equals 0. Okay? And then over here, I have x minus 3 equals 0. Divide by 4, x is going to equal 0. And I box it. Add 3, x is going to equal 3. So I end up with two answers, 0 and 3. But remember, you have to check. So if I put a 0 here, that's fine. That's a 2. So I have 10 over 2. And if I put a 0 there, that's okay. It's a negative 2. So this 0 is going to work because I'm not getting any zeros in the denominator. So this one checks. Let's try the 3. Do I get any zeros? Well, if I put a 3 here and a 3 there, I don't get any zeros either. So this one also works. So my solution is going to be, and we write our solution set, 0 and 3 because they both work in this equation. Okay. Now let's try one that's a little bit harder, and the reason why it's a little harder is because we got to find what the common denominator is. So this one, I know I need to have an x minus 4. This one here, I know this is front seat, back seat, so this is x minus 4 times x plus 4. Okay, so I'm going to kind of cross that out a little bit. Here, if I take the 2 out, I have x plus 4. So if I'm going to multiply everybody by the common denominator, I need to have a 2, I need to have an x plus 4, I need to have an x minus 4, and it's already here. So I'm going to multiply everybody by 2 times this times this. So 2 times x plus 4, x minus 4. 2 times x plus 4, x minus 4. 2 times x plus 4, x minus 4. All this work is really worth it because then you get a nice equation that's solved and you don't have to worry about all these fractions. Alright, let's see what we cancel here. We can cancel the 2's, x plus 4, so I end up with x times x minus 4. So let's go ahead and multiply that. It's x squared minus 4x. Nice. Fraction's gone. Alright, let's try it here. X minus 4's are canceled, so I have 2 times x plus 4. Let's go ahead and multiply that through now. That's going to be 2x plus 8. Nice. Here, this is the nicest one. Look, all of these cancel, so I have just 16 times 2, or 32. Now, isn't that much nicer than what we started out with? All right? So let's combine everything, and it looks like it's going to be a quadratic, so let's get it all to one side. So I have x squared minus 2x, because these two go together. And then if I bring that negative 32 over there, it's a minus 24 equals 0. So I have a nice quadratic to factor and solve. So let's factor that. So how do I get the x squared? X and x. I need two factors of 24 that are going to give me a 2. And that's going to be a 6 and a 4. And it's negative, so it better look like that. Make your big T. X minus 6 is going to equal 0. X plus 4 equals 0. X is going to equal 6. And x is going to equal negative 4. But we have to, you guessed it, check. So let's plug it in. 6 looks like it's going to be okay. Let's try the negative 4. Uh-oh. The negative 4 here, if I put a negative 4 here, this is going to turn to 0. So I have to reject this one. We can't use it. It doesn't work because it gives me a 0 in the denominator. So my solution set for this problem is just 6. Okay? One more, and then you can practice this. So I want you to put this in your notes. Alright, this should be getting easier for you. So if you want to stop this and try to do this, go ahead and then turn it back on and then see how I do it. Okay, welcome back. So let's do this. I see this is a denominator, this is a denominator. There's no factors of each other, so I need one of each, this one and this one to multiply it by. This one here I know is front seat, back seat, so I can write it like this. Now, that's kind of neat. So let's just multiply everything by those two. So I have y plus 3, y minus 3, y plus 3, y minus 3, y plus 3, y minus 3. Here comes the fun part. I think I'll change colors this time. Let's cancel. I love this part. So let's cancel this, get rid of that fraction. So, and we'll multiply it out. So that's y squared minus 3y. Okay. This cancels out. So I have plus y squared plus 3y equals, then they both cancel out. I just have 18. That's kind of nice. Now look at this, I have a negative 3y and a positive 3y, so those kind of cancel out. So I end up with 2y squared equals 18. There's a couple ways to do this. I think you can divide by 2, so I have y squared equals 9. Now, if you ever get one like this, the biggest mistake everybody makes is when they take the square root of both sides, they say, oh, y is 3. Well, that's just half your answer. The other answer is negative 3. Remember, when you take the square root, you get the plus and minus of that. So y can equal 3, and y can equal negative 3, because both of those will work if I square the negative 3 and that. So you got to be careful that you just don't give me the principal square root, that you give me both, because it's a quadratic, so you're going to have 2 roots. Don't forget that. All right, now let's look at these, because I have to check, right? I have a 3. Okay, I'm over good here if I plug it back in. If I plug a 3 in here, what happens? Oops, I have a 0. Can't use this one, so I'm going to reject this one. Can't use it. Put a little line through it. Let's try the negative 3, see if that works. Uh-oh, right here I have a 0, don't I? So I can't use that one. So you're at a stage in your math career now so that sometimes you're going to solve equations that don't have a solution. So there's 2 ways to write this. There's no solution to this. You can either write it empty brackets for empty set, or, but not the same, you can write, I like this one better, a 0 with a slash through it, meaning there's no answers. Please don't put that inside there. It's not the set of empty set. It's just there's no answer. So you can use this or this one. I like this one because it's fun.